Back to the Culture Call on Praise 93.3 with L. Spencer Smith. Our desire is to reach and empower the community by discussing a cross-section of relevant topics from various perspectives that are essential to its growth and interpersonal connections. Be sure to save our call-in number, 205-752-4800. Be sure to install the free Praise 93.3 app so you can send L. Spencer Smith a message or topic idea. Search for WTSK in your app store.
This is the world premiere.
Great morning, great morning, great morning. You know what time it is. It's time for your number one talk show with your number one guy. That's absolutely right. This is the Culture Call with Bishop L. Spencer Smith. Absolutely, this is the place where Tuscaloosa meets the world. And of course, for the next 2 hours from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., we're going to be talking a little bit about everything from society to sports, education to economics, from religion to relationships. And as always, y'all, we are here to create a safe space to have empowering conversation, provocative conversation, and yes, sometimes controversial conversations. You know how we do it. And guess what? You can call in or chat it up as we learn right here together on the Culture Call. Listen, want to send a special shout out. Number one, y'all know how I do it. Number one, want to send a shout out to all of our first time listeners to the Culture Call. Welcome to the CC family. That's right. We are glad and grateful that you are here. And we don't know how you heard about us, but I'm so glad you did. You might have seen us on Culture Call. I'm on the social media, rather, on our Culture Call page. Somebody might have said, hey, you need to check out that crazy guy. He's just on here talking up a storm. Yeah, you may have been riding through our city and just heard us on Praise 93.3 or 790 WTSK. Doesn't matter. I am glad and grateful. So whether you are at your cubicle, at your desk, or whether you on vacation or just riding through our city, welcome to the CC family. So very glad. Number two, shout out number two. Absolutely. All of my consistent, faithful, committed listeners who have made the Culture Call over the last year what it is, which is the number one talk show. I am grateful for you, and most certainly you, that when you see me in places that you come up and you say, aren't you? Yeah, I'm that guy, right? Yeah, and you shake my hand and hug me and love on me. Yeah, and say, man, you a trip. I love all of that. You don't know how much that makes me feel good, because my desire and my purpose is to make sure that our community is not least, last, and or lost in all that is going on. And you are a great big part of making that happen. And of course, shout out number three. Always want to give a shout out to this amazing, awesome, inimitable, phenomenal, fantastic brother Jay. Absolutely. Hey, as he leads us in from 5 a.m. all the way to 10, passes me this wonderful baton and say, son, run on to see what the end gonna be. Hey, you gonna make somebody mad? Yes, you are. But guess what? You're gonna make the rest of us glad. So guess what? I figure if Jesus did it, I can too. Want to send a definite shout out to Brother Jay that makes it happen, playing the best and great inspirational gospel music and always providing us with a nourishing word as we go along the journey. So I definitely don't want to forget about anybody. Listen, do me a favor, beloved. Go ahead and get your smart device, whether it's Apple or Android, go to the App Store and download our free 99 app. What does free 99 cost? Not one single solitary thing. Go ahead and do that and download the Praise 93.3 app. There you will find a way to listen to us on the go. We've made this portable. We've made not only the show, but this station portable so that you can hear all of the amazing programming here at Praise 93, and that you can hear the news, the breaking news, the breaking weather news, all the stuff that you want to know what's happening, not just here in West Alabama, Tuscaloosa, and all the surrounding areas, but definitely all around the country. Get that app. You need that app. And then, of course, you can always chat it up with me. It has a chat feature. You can go ahead and send me your notes or whatever your congratulations, or you get on my nerves. It doesn't matter to me. I just want to definitely hear from you. That's right. Listen, always also go ahead and send me your public service announcements to culturecall.praise@gmail.com. That's culturecall.praise@gmail.com. And let everybody know, lottie-dottie and everybody, what's going on at your church, your organization, your sorority, fraternity, whether you're an artist that's getting ready to have a recording or a concert, or a preacher that's getting ready to do a revival or open up a church. Does not matter. I want to let the world know exactly the amazing, amazing things that you are doing in our community. And we want to put some faces in the place so that you will know that you're not by yourself. You know why? Because we do it better always when we do it together. Thank you, Pop Watts, for that one. As always, I want to invite you to follow us on Facebook, and that is the Culture Call on Facebook. Go ahead. You just got to press that button, and that you can find us there, and you'll find out what we're talking about, certain announcements. Hey, go ahead and definitely do that. Also, you can give us a call on the Golden Hotline, 205-752-4800. That's 205-752-4800, and be a part of the conversation. Yeah, we definitely want to hear from you. Hey, do me a favor. We got a great day coming up, but go ahead, sit back and relax. If you like some coffee, you know how we do it. Maxwell House of Starbucks. To Starbucks, you can do that. Hey, maybe you're not a coffee drinker. You like tea. I got something for you there. Get you some herbal tea, chamomile if you're trying to calm down, and green tea if you just need a little caffeine kick to kind of spur up your day to make it toward lunch. Yeah, you don't like coffee or tea? Guess what? Don't leave that soda alone and get you some artesian, some spring, or some alkaline water. Yeah, Essentia is my favorite. Go ahead, detox that body, get hydrated, and let those cells know we're going to have a great day. Guess what? And then we will make sure that we come together as we are about to approach the beginning of the Culture Call discussion. Is that okay? Guess what? Y'all know that's how I start off. Y'all, Culture Call family. Did anybody, have you seen anything about the former president and that his interview with the National Association of Black Journalists, the NABJ, on yesterday in Chicago? Y'all. I'm trying to move past that y'all because I'm like, okay, that if I believe it was either Mark Twain or Abraham Lincoln. I want to say it was Mark Twain. That the saying is that if you close your mouth, then people will only think you are a fool. But it's another thing for you to open your mouth and remove all doubt. And of course, that's my paraphrase for it to kick off this conversation. Obviously there are some obvious things there. That in that whole interview, first of all, there were those of us who are black and in media that really we were posting and tweeting and really trying to get the NABJ to not even host that interview because we know it's going to be full of obfuscation, full of lies, mendacity. We knew that it was just going to go off the rails. We didn't know it was going to go off the rails that quick because I think it went off the rails with the first question. I'm like, yo, what in the world are you talking about, right? But it was insulting and off-putting. And there was a narrative that was created about, so many things about him as an individual, him as not just as a presidential candidate, but him as an individual and his lack of knowledge and depth of what it means to be black in this country and how you approach that. They're trying to siphon off or have been trying to siphon off since 2016, definitely in 2020, when he ran for re-election, the black vote, that there is a sector of black people that, believe for whatever reason from a conservative nature, or they just enjoy the accoutrements to being close to whiteness. And when I say whiteness, not white people, but the institutional whiteness will temporarily reward you with position and prominence only to snatch the rug from under your feet at at distinctive moments. That there are those people black people that feel inclined to rescue whiteness when whiteness and the institution thereof will not do the same in reverse if they get in the same instance. And so we've seen it time and time again. You all know that one of my favorite quotes is from Zora Neale Hurston, all of my skin folk ain't my kinfolk. But this whole idea of, color and ethnicity that has been posited, that was brought up, that when did the Vice President Harris turn black? I didn't know, especially in this country, that you could turn black, because trust and believe, ain't nobody trying to turn black but white folks until the police show up. And it is what it is. Nobody's trying to turn black. We don't have that luxury. We were born that way. This is how we have been graced by God to show up in the world. And I just sat there and just looked and was like, what is really the problem? Well, when you look at it from a national perspective, he's going down in the polls, and Vice President Harris, Kamala Harris, is going up in the polls, and even in the swing states. And I think this is where where it's crucial. So she's rising up in Georgia, in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, Arizona, all of these places that will literally determine who the next president is. She's going up and he's tanking, and that's for a plethora of reasons. Number one, his distancing himself from the Project 2025 policy that he thought was going to be great, which of course he said he didn't know anything about. But when you look at it and research it, all of the people on his campaign were a part of drafting that document, because one of the last things that they didn't have in 2016 and 2020 is that they did not have policy. And so what they decided to do this time, because they thought they were going to be running against President Joe Biden. Well, I don't know whether this was divine orchestration or one of the best chess moves I have ever seen in my entire life, but he steps aside and gives it to endorses his black woman VP, which is Kamala Harris, which if you look from just her resume, she is the most qualified, in governmental service, in accomplishment. And listen, y'all, black folks, stop believing all this stuff. Get off of social media and do your research. She's passed bills. She was an effective district attorney. She was a senator. Sat on the Judiciary Committee. She is currently the Vice President of the United States, a heartbeat away from being the president of this country, and perhaps the most powerful individual in the world. And so, she's not a DEI hire. She's not. That's definitely not what that is. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. We talked about that a couple of days ago. But the reality is he's bringing nothing to the table. She's a prosecutor. He is a convicted felon. And so, the whole idea of this even being a close race is amazing. And it's only close for one thing. And we're going to be talking about a little bit about that today. But it's only close for one reason. And it has nothing to do with policy, right? I had somebody say to me, well, you're only voting for her because she's black. I said, well, you're only voting for him because he's white. You see, right? Well, no, I'm not. Give me any qualification that you have seen about him to tell me why you are voting for him. Give me one. And they couldn't. Well, it's always, well, he didn't. Well, no. See, here's the deal. He's not a new candidate. Number one, right? He's been the president of the United States for 4 years, right? The first thing he did was, the whole idea of closing down, shipping immigrants back to their countries, especially in the south of the border, building a wall that, of course, he said Mexico was going to pay for. Mexico was like, who? Who are you talking about? Not us. We're not going to fund your fantasy. And so, and then he gives billionaires and oligarchs and rich folks, I'm hyper rich, I'm talking about ultra rich people, tax cuts while increasing the deficit. Then, COVID happens, and of course, you have people, he's recommending people, eat horse pills literal horse pills. or, drinking bleach and all of that. The economy was terrible, all of those different kinds of things. Thank God for a Democratic Senate and House at the time that pushed the checks through. But his thing was, if we're going to give people checks, I want my name to be signed on it. I want my name on it, which is why a lot of people think that he gave the checks when the president doesn't even have that kind of power. Does not even have that. That's not in his job description, right? That's in the job description he's currently fighting for in terms of being a king or an authoritarian or autocrat or a despot. He wants that power, unchallenged power. Let me just put that word there, unchallenged power. So, what is the problem? But the problem that we're having in this country is it doesn't start today. It really dates back to the still fighting the wars of the 60s. It is really fighting the wars of this Christian evangelical, fundamentalist nationalism that is going on, right? That started, I'm going to call some names that you all know that you probably followed back in the day because I know my grandparents did. Listen, when I was a child, they would look at Jerry Falwell. He was in it. Yeah. Jerry Falwell did not want, back in the 60s, he fought tooth and nail for black children in Danville, Virginia, and Farmville, not Danville, but Farmville, Virginia, to not go and have an education because of segregation. Yeah, he was one of those. And then Paul Ryrich, that was in that. Then you had your Pat Buchanan was in that as well. All of those people form what they call this whole moral majority, right? That had absolutely nothing to do with abortion. They had nothing to see. Abortion only became an issue, a wedge issue in the late 80s, right? All before it was because the federal government, Jimmy Carter, did not did not want Bob Jones University in my home state of South Carolina, which was a segregationalist college, to still receive private college, they wanted to still receive government money and funding and remain a segregated college. And the federal government at the time said, absolutely not. And that upset a whole lot of white folks, Southern white folks. That upset whiteness, that institution, it sent them in a fury. And so in the late 80s, they added Pat Buchanan, who had just opened up Christian Broadcasting Network. Y'all know 700 Club. Yeah. They brought him on and they formed what they called the moral majority. The moral majority, because they saw that, and they were the biblical championing of white grievance. Let me say that again, that they were upset about those in the Dixiecrats, some Republicans and the Dixiecrats, and then in the 60s and 70s, then they became the current, what we know now is the current Republican Party, right? All the racists normally were on the Democratic side when we look in the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s. But during that time when Lyndon B. Johnson passed the Civil Rights Act and all of those things with Martin Luther King, they had an issue with him. They were part of fueling that whole idea. Ralph Reed, this whole thing about Dobson, focus on the family. You see, all of these things we've been listening to and people we've been listening to for years. Well, they funded this. They fueled all of these things. They had Christian programming that they tied in more than anybody. They tied in more than anyone prior to or post the Civil War, this whole idea of Christian and God and country, right? And they're given their understanding of dominion. And from Genesis, let them have dominion, that this whole idea of domination over peoples and over systems and the maintenance of segregation, because in their mind they said God does not set up boundaries between nations, and that God did. Now, God didn't do that. Man did that. Boundaries and limitations and slicings. Our country looks like what it does today in terms of state boundaries, not because God said it that way, it's because men voted it for that to be that way, right? But nonetheless, that's what it was. That is what it, and they said it's set up between God, the land and races. And so they want to maintain a pure race. And, their whole idea, and that has filtered out. They selected Ronald Reagan, who became the poster boy for that time. They selected the Bushes and all of that time, all that. And that's that, this is what this whole kind of Christian conservative issue, this whole movement. And now it was the Tea Party movement, which wasn't about that. And so they know how to, this Christian nationalism knows how to take political names and plaster it on so you won't be able to know that, you're still buying their books, you're still listening to their broadcast, you're still looking at them on television. Yeah, but these are the people that are the undercurrent of what is going on, which is why when Donald Trump decided to run for president, he had already on the record said that if I ever ran, I would run as a Republican because they are not the smartest people. Exactly. That's exactly what he said. And so, and now he aligns himself. If you notice, he was just at a couple of weeks ago, this whole idea, I think it was last week, turning point. This whole Christian conservative conference. And that's why he was saying, if you don't vote, all I need is Christians to vote one more time. And he fails even now to explain what that means. Well, we already know what that means because you put it in a document, right? Project 2025. I said all that to say him being the one that questions Vice President Harris's color, it is laughable on the face. All of our color. This country called her black. She identifies as a black woman. Her father is black. Her mother is Indian, yes, but raised her as a black woman in that cosmology, in that community, in Oakland, California, right? If you go to Oakland, blickety black, right? That part. And so she went to an HBCU, Howard University, graduated from there. She pledged a D9. Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. She's an AKA, right? And so to get in front of black journalists yesterday and question, talking about when she turned black, is a big umbrage. And I'm talking about today, if I've got any brothers and or sisters that were considering voting for him, I'm going to say, what is wrong with you? Because, listen, they use abortion and things of that nature. Don't let these other issues that are supposed to be a church addressing that, right? If there are moral and spiritual and righteous issues, the government does not address that, right? That is the issue of the church. If you don't believe in something, if you don't believe that this person, then minister to them. Then get the word and go and tell them what the Bible says. But the government should not mandate that. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, so exactly. When your own family won't vote for you, that's an issue, y'all. And I'm going to be talking about voting and stirring up your righteous mind until November and even afterwards, because this is a pivotal election. And even if you come to the point to where, where you say, well, I'm only voting for her because she's black. Okay, well, all right. I mean, she's so much more than just her color is what I'm saying. Just like Barack Obama. He was an unknown quantity when he stepped on the stage. Kamala Harris does not have that issue. She's been in government. She's been working in that. No. Like I said, she's one of the most experienced people to ever run for president. She just happens to be a black woman. And so, the whole issue is, I think that there is a fever pitch in this country that they released something. And I'm not one of them spooky prophets. I don't do that because I definitely not, and I'm not going to start doing it today. But I believe, I told y'all about looking at signs. I believe that there is going to be a tremendous judgment, and it's already happening on racism. Because I'm talking about the text teaches us that as soon as, and as soon as a demon or a devil is about to be cast out, that's when they act their craziest. They rip and rant and they twist the body. They do all it because they know their time is up. Their time is not long. And there is long overdue a particular judgment that need come to the institution of white supremacy, of racism, of all of these genderisms. All of these things are now coming to a fever pitch. They're coming. And if you think you've seen the last of it, you have not. They're going to throw everything but the kitchen sink at her. And we have to be ready to see it, because that's what's going to happen. They're going to do it. You know, and when they see those polls tanking, they're going to pull out their black card. And yesterday, y'all, I was looking at the news and even on social media and seeing all of the conservative black, Republicans try to run away from it, try to run away from that interview from that Trump had with the NABJ. They tried to run away from it yesterday. And one just said, this is stupid. That was just a stupid move. He said, I know y'all don't want me to say that, because I'm a black conservative, but that was stupid. He said, and I really can't say what I want to say on this television, because the words I really want to use, we're going to get bleeped out. It was like, that is really crazy. It was not, and I mean, they're trying to spin it. I mean, right now, even before I got on, on the air, they're trying to spin it right now. They're trying to. But Culture Call, we will not lose our focus. We will not lose our focus. That we owe it to our ancestors. We owe it to our children and our grandchildren to make sure that if we're going to stay in this country is going to regard us. Yes, they're going to regard us as human beings created in the image of God. They're going to acknowledge that all of this control and domination that they have been doing all over the world in this country, that America is not the New Testament Israel. Let me try this again. America, you're the United States of America. Love this country, but you are not the New Testament Israel. God is not taking his directions from our likes and dislikes, our morals in this country, right? God is not doing that. He's not for the entire world. No, that is arrogance. That is ignorance, right? That when we look at the text, that this is an old world book. This is not a new world manuscript. No, this book is talking about countries that no longer exist, was written to people that are in territories that are not even recognized by the modern world. You see what I'm saying? When Archaea, Philistine, Philistia, Philippi, all these different kind of places, they are named different regions. When you read Babylon, where is that now? Right? All of those different kinds of things, right? This book is a geographical book as well, right? When you look at a Bible commentary or anything that speaks of that, Culture Call, guess what? You're not going to find a map of America there. No, because it's the old world. It's the old world, right? And so for you to believe that on the Isle of Patmos that John is prophesying and taking his spiritual directions thousands of years ago from a country that is only 200 and something plus years old? Yeah, okay then. All right, okay. Throw the whole Bible study away. Throw the whole pulpit away. They're trying, but we will not let them do it as long as the Lord keeps life and body and keeps giving me downloaded information. If I can read and research, because that's all I do, read and research. Yeah, more than just for my Sunday preaching, but I've got to help my people understand that, hey, the way that we begin to navigate in this time. I never thought I'd live to see where white people begin to say, oh, that person ain't black. What? Really? We didn't even set up the rules. Y'all set up the rules, and now they're changing the rules. Whiteness is trying to change the rules. Y'all. And we can't let that happen in this hour. Listen, I'm telling you, you need to keep it locked in. You need to keep it locked in, because I'm going to tell you really what's going on. I really want to tell you what's really happening in this country and what's been happening from the very beginning. And it's not going to surprise you, but it is going to connect some dots so that we can be together in this conversation on the Culture Call right here with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. Praise 93.3, 790 WTSK. Keep it right here. There's much more to come.
This is the world premiere.
And we are back right here on the Culture Call. Yeah, with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. Praise 93.3, 790 WTSK. And we are having a blast already. Do you hear me? We are having a blast. And we've been talking about just, yesterday's interview with the National Association of Black Journalists, with former President Donald Trump, and how abysmal that was. But I want to give some nuance. I always give some history as we talk, because I think it's imperative that unless you know a thing's journey, unless you really understand how a thing got to be that thing, it's important. Unless you know that, you're thinking, okay, well, it's one thing when really it's not. It's not, right? It's not just racism. It's not just, misogyny. It's not just chauvinism. It's not just, there is a tremendous thing that we need to address it. And so really what I wanted to talk about was insecurity and how insecurity becomes dangerous, because you really can't hate anyone or have a dislike about anyone when there is something about you that does not hate you. There is something that's not sure on the inside of you. When you say, I know we use the word glibly, oh, I hate this and I hate that. I hate this. And I know because of English, our words are so limited in our English language in terms of meaning, right? But when you really begin to understand, the root of words, the etymology of words, right? When you begin to go on and see where words come from, that they do have, words have feelings, words have intentions beyond their literary device. Words really have a depth and reveal the heart and the emotions. And first of all, I don't see how we don't know that when we read the scripture. You see the scripture really kind of connects what we say and what our hearts really are. So the words that we use are really indicators of who we become or who we are in process to be, or our pains and our hurts, right? That when you listen to people's words that they use, they're talking out of pain. So we don't necessarily get that, the depth of that, because of the English language that we use. But nonetheless, it is still true and still sure about when we use words. So, when I say I love you, we believe I love you is a feeling, even though it is a decision, because that word, especially eros, from the Greek eros, that kind of romantic depth of love, not agape, but which is that unconditional decision to love, to do the best for that individual. But that eros, we feel it, all the levels of love, right? When I say I love you in English, that's one thing. But when I say I love you in Greek, it means you have to ask me, what love are you talking about? Right? Because I don't want this to go off the rails. And so when we talk about insecurity, we're looking at a prime definition of the effect of that word insecurity, right? That can stem not just from the moment that we are presented in the present, but that word insecurity has a root system that's so deeply connected down within the heart and spirit of an individual that if we don't understand that, when an insecure person can have that from childhood and now they're 60 and it's manifesting in different ways, in different elements, in control, in pride, in arrogance, in conceit. It can manifest itself in low self-esteem or even high self-esteem. That insecurity can do that, especially when it has fostered over the years. And if we don't understand that an old familiar hurt can resurface, and on the inside and show up on the outside in things that in systems, right? In areas where you're thinking it's political, but it's really not. It is really a personal thing, right? And this insecurity oftentimes happens when people are young. They've been mishandled. They've been mislabeled. They've been misunderstood. They've been abused, misabused. They've not been given the affirmation that's necessary as a child to be loved, to be wanted, to be cared for. They were given things, but they were not given affection, the affection of parents and people, which are more important than things. They were given materials. So you see a lot of this insecurity manifesting even outside of the boundaries of economy, right? Economic decisions, because rich folk are some of the most insecure individuals, right? Because especially if they have coming from money, coming from that lineage of well-to-doness, having a silver spoon in their mouths, that they were given everything that they want. And then when they find themselves having to deal with the complexity of worth and affirmation and validation outside of that comfortable place that they grew up in, or maybe not even a comfortable place outside of that material world validation, they don't know how to handle it. They don't know how to handle that place that I really don't know who I am, or I've been taught and fostered in a community that did not treasure the value of me. And so, they can become, really reckless. They can become really hateful, really depressed. And you see this culture call all around, the world, in your family, in your community. An insecure individual has a possessive nature, has a controlling nature, when insecurity raises its head. And the root of insecurity is when your identity is built on an unsure foundation. When you've not really been established in terms of your identity and who you are, your purpose, your design, you've not been appreciated. Again, you've not been said to or spoken into in terms of that verbal impartation that establishes your identity. One of the greatest things that we see in the text when we talk about a culture call is this whole idea that Jesus goes to be baptized with John the Baptist. And when he gets into the Jordan, the heavens open up, a dove descends, and the Bible says that there comes a voice from heaven that says, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased," right? And let's not move past that so fast, right? Let's not move past that, because I think that teaches us also about something about the necessity of human affirmation and validation from authority, from those who are our parents, from those who are our covering and our caregivers, right? When you lack that, Jesus came into the world, and sometimes we have a difficulty allowing Jesus to be God and man. That and man is a little bit difficult because we have a great journey in our minds to see Jesus walking in the earth as we did. Although Scripture tells us he wasn't floating places, you know what I'm saying? He was walking places where, just like we walk, to our kitchen, from our bathroom to our kitchen, from our kitchen to our garages. He was walking just like we walk. And the necessity of not him just being validated, but the necessity of validation of your humanity. The necessity. And he didn't receive that until he was, of that divine validation, until he was 30. History says. Right? So think about when you lack that. Somebody just saying, hey, before you do anything, before you become anything, before you go to college, before you bring home an A, before you get the job, that I am well pleased with you. I am well pleased just because you're here. I'm well pleased because you survived the womb. I'm well pleased because, out of all the things that, that were going on in your life, you're still here. I am pleased about you. Our children need to hear that. You and I need to hear that. Because if we grow up without that and we are in areas that are without that, we become performative. What does that mean? El, I'm glad that you asked. We become performative. We start doing things to get attention. We start doing things, good and or bad, to get some level of attention, verbal attention, some affirmation. The worst thing you can do when someone is trying to establish identity of who they are is to ignore them. Let me say this again. One of the worst things that you can do to a person, an individual that's looking for their identity, is to ignore them. You see what I'm saying? Is to act as if they don't exist when they are there, when they are bodied, when they are human. Let me tell you why. Because the natural inclination of the mind is to do something, right? Because since my being is not enough, then I got to do something to get attention. All right. Now, let's stop right there, Culture Call, because I think that is an object lesson that we need to talk about. We need to think about that there are people that do things to get attention because their being has been ignored, who they are as a person, as a people. And when you read the history of certain people, and you recognize how they were brought up as children, when you recognize they were like, okay, they were the outlier, the black sheep, whatever you want to call them. Yeah. Gideon had that issue. He's like, yeah, okay, you calling me all this, but I'm the least in my family. Can you imagine what Gideon had to go through? See, we know Gideon as a mighty man of valor only because that is what God has said about him. Because Gideon, I need you to go help me fight these Midianites. And I've got to begin to affirm you. You are a mighty man of valor. And Gideon's like, yeah, whatever. I'm not going to be because I'm the least of my family. Nobody pays attention to me. You see? Everybody's ignoring me, right? I'm the redheaded stepchild. Nobody is paying me any attention. So God says, well, if I'm going to get him to be a part of my team, I've got to affirm who he is. I got to call him like I see him, which is a mighty man of valor. And Gideon says, well, if I'm all of this, I'm going to do a fleece. That's what that Gideon fleecing God. And God says, I've got this man. He's got to make Gideon aware of his truest identity, because without that, Gideon is growing up currently in the text as an insecure individual. Think about it when you don't have the love of a father and you don't have the love of the nurturing of a mother. Think about when all your siblings are the one that's lauded, applauded, and you're not. And some of you are listening to me today who fell and who survived all of that. But think about that when that happens. That is a reality for a lot of people. Think about when your father doesn't trust you and hey, I'm going to give you this money because if I don't give you this money and I don't make some phone calls, you ain't going to never be nothing. Right? There's going to be a day where you're going to just start doing stuff to try to prove I'm valid. I think one of the worst political ads, one of the most detrimental, is when somebody did an AI of Donald Trump's father saying how displeased he was of him in terms of, and everything that I believe, everything that Donald has done from youth even until now is to try to please his father, who of course is dead, right? To try to make up for a lack of affirmation. That's why he loves to surround himself with people who affirm his greatness, who agree with him. You see? That's not a strong man. That's a weak individual. When you got to have everybody catering to you. That's what normally kings do. That's what people who want to be, they feel like if I'm in control, then I can make everybody like me. Right? But on the way, I'm doing all of these things. And not thinking that it's going to catch up with me. I'm not thinking that. I'm not thinking the police is going to catch up with me. I'm not thinking that this woman is going to tell on me. I'm not thinking that this child is going to rat me out. I'm not thinking that I demand loyalty. See, you see it now. You see it now. It is an individual whose identity is built on a faulty foundation, which is why they have to attack other people's identity. Oh, we're getting a good lesson here today in this Sunday school called Culture Call today. Yeah. So I have to attack other people's identity. Why is that? Because I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am. I am shaky on shaky ground. All that I heard is I was a shyster. I was a trickster. This is why it was important for that angel to wrestle with Jacob. Come on, let's bring it. It's back in the book. It's in the text. That's why it was important Culture Call to do that and move from Jacob, because Jacob's name means trickster, fraudster, right? I got to move from that and say, hey, you're no longer Jacob. Your name is Israel, for you are a prince and you have power with God. That's a pivotal moment of reestablishing identity. See, in old cultures, in the old world, what you were named spoke to really who you were and how you were appreciated. When Rebecca was about to name, her child Benoni, they were like, oh, absolutely not. Now, Rachel was about to name his child Benoni because of her pain, and like, no, they're like, no, this is Benjamin. You are not going to name my child out of your pain. That was the issue with Jabez, right? This is why we love the prayer of Jabez, but you got to understand, when you don't have identity and then God supernaturally intervenes to give you affirmation, that means a lot. He's trying to repair something internal. It's not about cars, cash, and cribs. No, if I don't repair this identity breach that's going on the inside of you, then you're going to be a tyrant. Study the world's tyrants, and you will find that these are some of the most insecure. They cannot be challenged. That they don't like opposition. They come off with a certain level of bravado and arrogance, hubris, because that is their defense mechanism. I don't want you to touch the areas where I was not fortified. I don't want you to say anything about my weak areas. That's what insecurity does. Yeah, that's why Deke tripping on the deacon board. That's why that first soprano is tripping, because there is something they made their pride in their life, their identity. They made their gifting their identity, their prowess in a certain area. And you better not come up against it. You better not touch it, because you will have a fight for your life. They hate to be insulted. You're looking at it on a macro scale now with your own eyes with this election. And I'm telling you, insecurity is running rampant, and it needs to be addressed. Listen, I got so much more to talk about right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. I need you to keep it right here. 790 WTSK Praise 93. We'll be back in just a moment.
This is the world premiere.
And we are back right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. It's the top of the hour, 11 a.m. and some change. And I want to send a special shout out to those of you who are tuning in. That's right, to our second hour. That's right, our final hour. Absolutely, of conversation, dialogue, controversy, provocative talk right here on the Culture Call. I always say that because people think what I'm saying is so controversial. Really, it is not. It's really not. Listen, I want you to know that this weekend, make sure that you go to church, right? Take your kids. This is the week before I believe the children start school again. And I know that definitely we at the Impact Nation are going to be praying over parents, children, administrators, teachers, all of those. We do that on this Sunday at 10 a.m. at the Impact Nation Fellowship Church. But yes, get up, wash your face, brush your teeth, go to the house of the Lord and make sure that you get prayed for or get your child prayed over in this 2024-2025 school season. Absolutely. Listen. Definitely want to always encourage you to send in your organization church announcements to culturecall.praise@gmail.com. That's culturecall.praise@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Facebook. That's right, The Culture Call, and you can message me or paste it even on the wall of your announcements. I know that there's still a lot of events going on. People are wrapping up Bible study this week, a Bible school, not vacation Bible school, actually, this week. And definitely want to get that in. Yeah, now we're coming into the place of fall revivals, all that, whatever it is. Go ahead, send it to me, culturecall.praise@gmail.com. That's culturecall.praise@gmail.com. Good deal. Listen, we've been having a conversation, and now I want to connect some dots, and I hope that you already see where we're going with that, because I think that we have to begin to understand what we're looking at from a full perspective, and this whole idea of insecurity shows itself in racism, genderism, any kind of ism, because that individual who is either being castigated or castigating is attacking or trying to cover something that is an insecurity within themselves. They're comparing themselves, right? And, comparison is the thing that, is when we make what matters, what never mattered, the thing that matters most, right? That, there are men that attack women because they are women. They possess the genitalia of a woman, right? And that is when men do that, and of course there's a whole ideology, a whole biblical script that goes with that. But consequently, when you look in Ephesians, and I know we're talking about husband and wives, but when you look in Ephesians chapter 5, there is something there that's very powerful, that we're talking about marriage, marriage. He says that a man cannot hate his wife or abuse his wife, because to abuse that is to abuse himself. Right. So that when you see people that are insecure and they're hurling out abusive threats and they're doing all that, there is something about themselves that they hate, that they believe that if I do this on who is marginalized, who does not have the ability to fight back, right? If I do that, that will be right. Think about it, y'all. Come closer. One of the election cases that have been held up until after the election was, one of the election cases he lost was by a black woman, Letitia, attorney Letitia. I can't remember her last name, but in New York, he lost that one, right? Fonnie Willis in Georgia, attorney Fonnie Willis, he decides, she's going to win this. So let's look at her sexual history. Now, push pause. Ain't no way, right? And people buy into it. This is what I'm saying. People are being suckered by it, Culture Call. It's so amazing. How you going to look at her sexual past with a willing individual, a willing man? How you think that's going to bias her, but you don't want nobody to look at you with an unwilling woman of sexual abuse and porn star? How you see it's always something that's going on inside of them that they're trying to target in somebody else, right? It's always an insecurity, and that's why I say insecurity is so dangerous. It's so dangerous. They need therapy. Insecure people really need therapy. They are dangerous people. And why do you say that? Because when they feel threatened, especially when you are a secure individual and you know who you are, when they feel threatened by your sense of security in yourself and who God has made you, oh my goodness, they will kill you. Right? Jesus' whole crucifixion, arrest, the whole issue that the Pharisees and Sadducees had with Jesus is because Jesus was firmly secured in him being the Son of God, him knowing who he was, right? And at every point, he would point out their insecurity. He would point out their duplicity. He would point out where they were being hypocrites, and they couldn't stand it. And so they had to cavort and, make alliances with the Roman government, twist it. He's coming after Caesar. No, they twisted that, right? They twisted that because of the insecurity that they had of themselves. Right. They did that because they didn't know who they were. And people who are insecure about who they are some of the most dangerous people, Culture Call, on the face of the planet. They will kill. Yes. They will kill. They will make. The reason why that people are attacking American history, Black history and Black presence in this country and achievement is because they are insecure about themselves. Nobody wants to be pointed as the villain in the story. Nobody says, "Oh, I want to be the villain in history. I want to be the weak, intolerable, vicious, satanic, demonic individual." That's my choice. That's my characterization in history. That's how I want people to know me from all eternity. Nobody wants to do that. So, but there are books out there that clearly spell it out. Not from a fictional. This is not Marvel Comics. This is real. And we don't want nobody to know that our foreparents, that my grandparents, that my great-granddaddy was standing there grinning and holding, a noose in his hand, holding the teeth of the slaves, of a slave that he pulled out their teeth and holding and grinning it. I don't want them to see my grandmother in a pointy hat, a Ku Klux Klan. We don't want that. We don't want to talk about those things. Those are divisive. Those are divisive things. Really? Really? Who started it? And it was good only until the light, which is the greatest disinfectant, started shining on it. And your children started finding out what kinds of people that they came from. That's when it became divisive. But we didn't write the history. We weren't the slave owner. We weren't the people who were hanging white folks from trees. Billie Holiday didn't sing the song Strange Fruit because of stuff we were doing to you. We're not light-skinned and all this because black folks were sleeping with white folks in terms of by our own design. That they were raping. That's not why we were light-skinned. Come on. That's not why we have given up and don't even know our African names and got now the name of Jefferson, Washington, Smith, Johnson. That's not why. We didn't do that. That's the history. We didn't go over to Europe and say, hey, we taken over and stole you and made you subservient to us and set up systems of, we didn't do that. That's why the issue of reverse racism is hilarity on its face, because we did not do that. We did not do that. There is a horrible, horrible past that is founded in insecurity that reeks over time. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. That you're losing black support, so I'm going to attack the blackness of an individual who's been black all their life. You wrote a check to her candidacy, to her political campaign as a district attorney. And the reason why you did it, you said it on your name, is because she was a black woman. Now you didn't know that she was black? Are you serious? The receipts don't add up. Come on, Trump, the receipts don't add up, sir. They don't add up. And when insecure people are discovered, they act a nut. They are narcissists. They use gaslighting, all kinds of stuff. They're trying to make you think that they are the victim in a scenario a vicious scenario that they created? Really? And you're sitting there, well, I ain't do nothing. Right? Because nobody wants to be the villain, but they will be the villain to get power and control and domination. And these things are vestiges of insecurity. Absolutely. Absolutely. When is there going to be a White History Month? January, skip February, and March through the rest of the year? Yeah. Example, you got an issue of us coming to your barbecue place, but when it comes to our family reunions and barbecues, you're welcome. You just can't bring the potato salad. Right? That's not who we are. Culture call. That's not who we are. Absolutely. Right? We never tell you, we ain't trying to be like, no. Well, she was in Georgia and she sounded like she was in Georgia. Because black people know about code switching. We know how to talk when we need to talk to who we talk to, right? If my mama was still living in my daddy and we from South Carolina and my wife would be sitting there, my kids like, what did they just say? Because we start talking fast and talking in our Geechee Gullah dialect from South Carolina, from the low country. And yeah, you don't know nothing. Them boy do things like that all the time, right? And you're like, what did you just say? Yeah, but when I get up in church or I get up in front of a business meeting or I get, I'm doing something different, I know how to code switch. I know I got a lexicon and language. I can use my words. Absolutely. But when I'm around my friends, I don't talk like that. And code switching was a way of survival. And all of them, she in Georgia, talk like she from there, because she knows what we have to do to be able to survive. Absolutely. And the truth of the matter is, what was funny is that a lot of Caucasian people came on to say, yeah, we know we don't call it code switching, but we speak differently on a platform or on stage when we're in the bank than we speak when we're around our families. That's what we've had to do. Because you know why? Because there were only one group of people in this country that was saying, oh, you trying to be uppity? That was us. Right? So, and then, then you got these people who don't understand. They say, oh, you talk like a white person. No, I don't. I talk like I have intelligence. I talk like I'm well read and studied. Hello? Absolutely. Right? But there is an insecurity because we can't go and do that. We don't have that ability to do that. Right? And so that's very important. And so history always, we're easily able to point out the insecure people because they are the people that are really, especially when they're in leadership or in authority, they're easy to point out because they're the folks that need everybody to agree with them. They're the people. And I don't care whether you're a pastor or a priest. I don't care whether you're a businessman, a CEO, or the janitor. When you are insecure, it is going to show some sign. It is going to be evident. The black woman just asked him a question. That was the worst thing. Because he knows, watch this, he knows that the question was pointed. He knows he doesn't have any answer to the question. He's insecure about it, but he starts going down the trope of the angry black woman asking me a question. That's because he's trying to appeal to a label and a nomenclature that he's trying to, that his base is, no. She was just she was very professional. And she probably was hot 5 months. If I knew the sister, she probably was upset having to even be on that stage with you. But hey, I'm going to be a professional. You see what I'm saying? Culture call, we need to understand that when you're around insecure, that's why you got to speak into the lives of your children. Speak well to your wife. Speak well to your husband. Yes, build them up with your words. Let it be seasoned with grace. That's why we got to change the way that we discipline our children and not call them stupid and ignorant and dumb and all that, not cuss them out and use profanity. That's why we got to stop doing that. Just because it was done to you doesn't mean that it was right. That's why we got to change the paradigms of the way that we handle each other. Right? That we don't get that from us. That's not what we get from us. No. We don't get that from our root systems in Africa. They looked at those kids and spoke a name, and that name meant something. They ain't named the baby Buick or Mercedes. Just naming folks stuff that you don't even know what it means. Right? I preached about that, and the folks would tickle because I know they're thinking in their minds, he ain't never lied. He ain't never lied. He talking about what he talking about. Exactly. Right? We've got to change that. Yeah, that little boy is rambunctious. You know why? Because he's a little boy. That little girl is rambunctious. You know why? Because she's a little girl. Yeah. Yeah. My sons are my kings. My daughter's my princess. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, when we are together, we might jank on each other, but at the end of the day, we spent the most of our lives making sure that they were secure about their identity. Because to release an insecure child on a school system, since we're going back to school, man, that teacher will have all kind of problems. But it started at home because that child is trying to gain attention. And they're not trying to gain attention from that teacher. They're trying to gain attention from those parents. Oh, man, I got to work. I got to do it. Listen. That child didn't ask to be here. You and I have a responsibility. Here's a scriptural word, to nurture. This is what we're talking about. To nourish that identity, to feed that identity, to let them know that they are fearfully and wonderfully made and that you are grateful and glad that they are here in the world. Glad that God gave you that gift, a piece of his mind and his heart, a piece of God's future. That's one of the things that we did, that when we, and I just implemented when we started our last set of babies that we christened, we got them a little gift. Yeah, a little gift, that a little bracelet that they wear on their bracelet, on their wrist while they're growing up. And it says God's future. I am God's future. Lo, children are the heritage of the Lord, and arrows in his quiver. Absolutely. It is a privilege. But we've got to stop making it seem like, oh, you're just such a burden to me. No, Coming to school to find out what's going on is not a burden. That's my responsibility. Right? Our parents back in the day used to tell us, listen, you know who you represent. We are a great family. You better go in that classroom and act like you got some sense. Right? Don't make me come to that school because you're not acting like a Smith. Don't make me come to that school because the teacher said you don't know how to be respectful and say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. Don't do that. That you don't know how to follow instructions. No, they put a sense of security and pride, a sense of esteem. See, a lot of these kids, they're out in the street killing. They're trying to find some level of affirmation and validation because they're insecure. So they go to gangs. They go to these people who so they can look big and bad in front of them. Right? And that right there is the issue. That is the issue. That they grow up and you're like, I don't know, what's wrong with them? Right? I was in the school system and I saw how parents would come and say things to their kids. And I'm like, yeah, but there's not going to be too many of that though. And I'll stop the parent. Listen, y'all just got to know me. I'm a different kind of individual. No, there's not going to be too much of that. I know, no, that what you just called them, there's not going to be too many more of those. Not while you're in front of me. Y'all handle that when y'all get home. But when you're in front of me, you're going to speak to them like, I know they messed up. I know, but what you ain't going to do is call them that. You're not going to treat them like that, not while you're in front of me. Because I'm just that kind of dude. I'm just that kind of, no, Sir, you're not going to talk to your wife like that, not while you're in front of me. No, ma'am, you're not going to disrespect your husband. No. You're not while you're in front of me. You're going to go fix that. No, absolutely not. We're not doing any of that. You see, this is what I'm saying, because all of that goes to esteem and security. No one wants to walk in the world and not feel like they are secure. Let me say this again, Coach Call. No one, absolutely no one wants to walk in the world and feel insecure. Yeah. So let me hear from you, 205-752-4800. Because if we don't talk about this insecurity issue, and I want to get this straight, I want to get it straight again. You know, I want to make sure that we understand that insecurity is what we're looking at right now. What we are looking at right now in the face is an insecure generation. I don't know who I am. I don't know how folks receiving me. I don't know how I'm coming off. I don't know if people see my value. And they're showing out. They are showing out. Yeah. And I get it. There are all areas where everybody is insecure. But what is our response? What is our response? We got to figure out what that is. We got to figure out how we're going to manage and navigate in a world that doesn't always see us, doesn't always appreciate what we bring to the table, Culture Call. I get it. You're on a job where, you know, you overdue for some level of promotion, but it seems like you're always overlooked. I know that feeling. We all know that feeling as community. We all. But what we cannot do is allow that insecurity to fester, that it begins to bombard the other areas of our lives, because I'm telling you right now, it is going to affect you and I in ways that we never thought possible. Absolutely. So we got to we got to deal with that. We got to start right now. All summer long, you had an opportunity, but maybe you didn't do it, but start today. Looking at your child in the face and say, hey, this year is going to be your best year. You know why? Because you're daddy's big man. You're going to get all A's. You're going to make the team. Yeah. Yeah, you might not get it all right all the time, but that's okay. You're still a genius. You're still this. You got to have you're mommy's baby. You're mommy's bright sunshine. Yeah, you're a beautiful girl. So once you put that in them and you take away that insecurity, then nobody else around them can say anything that will ever affect them. You know why? Do you know why? Because we've taken care of that. Yeah, we've taken care of that. We have taken care of that. Well, I know who I am. My mom and my daddy told me. My daddy told me I'm this, and my mama said that I'm that. So I don't care what you say about me. Right. And my mother always used to say to me, and I'll share it with you, it's not what they call you, it's what you answer to. Right? And parents, we have to give our children what to answer to. If they're not calling you this, then you don't have to answer them. They can call you whatever they want to call you. Right? But you don't answer it just because they called you that. You feel me? You don't answer to it just because they call you out of your name. And kids gonna be kids at school. And teachers now, yeah, you don't have to tarry into that. No, you stay exactly with what I called you to be. Right? So we've got to there are ways that we deal with the dangerous aspects of insecurity, but we got to put all hands on deck in our community. And it begins at home. Absolutely. Listen, got to take a break, but I need you to stay right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, 205. Yeah, I need you to call me, 205-752-4800. Go ahead, give me a call. Let me know what you're thinking. Hit me up on the app. Post it on my Facebook. I need you to keep it right here on Praise 93.3 FM.
This is the world premiere.
And we are back right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. Praise 93.3 FM, 790 WTSK. Yeah. We've been having a wonderful conversation today about insecurity and how it manifests and what we're looking at. You know, somebody just hit me up and talked about, they wanted me to say something. I'm not going to say too much about it, but, you know, at last I gotta do what my listeners are saying. Here's the deal. The word came through that the manager of the Knicks and the Sticks has offered up an apology for using the derogatory N-word against his customers that were there celebrating. And again, we are grateful for the guy that stepped in, Hunter, I believe is his name. Hunter, let me see if I can look through my notes and see if I can find his name. I believe that was Hunter Sarton. That's right. That he stood up for them and really began to call into question and really took the owner or manager, whatever, off back, to I was like, you gonna stand up for them? Yeah. I told them to come here because it was a great place, and here you are demeaning them. And he's offered apology. Well, the management is offering an apology. And I mean, I don't know what else to say about it, Culture Call. I mean, it is what it is. It is exactly what it is. Some things are actions bar an intervention from God. See, we got to stop doing things and then want God to turn it around and fix it, Jesus. No. You did that of your own free will. So think about it. Think before you act. Think before you speak. Because that there's no guarantee that God's going to move it around and change it in your favor. No, he may let that seed stay in the ground, and you might just reap the harvest of the seed that you sowed. That's the principle in the earth. Genesis 8:22 says, as long as the earth remains cold and heat, seed time and harvest shall remain. Right? So if you put a seed in the ground, give it a little time, harvest is going to come. And so I'm not prognosticating, prophesying or whatever, but that might be an apology that rings very hollow to the customers. I've never been. I've heard about it. I've wanted to go, but I just haven't had the time to do so. But but if for customers, both black and white, you may have damaged something so much, and that people may not want to be aligned with that. And if that is so, then you learn from that. You learn from that. Hopefully, you will learn from that because there's a time that these things got to be judged as they are. We got to look at them as for what they are. And I posted a couple of days ago, Culture Call. I really wish that we didn't have to deal with the isms, because they make living life and navigating this world so very difficult. So very difficult. And those schisms and isms that are being named among us make it very, embarrassing sometimes to even be a human, because you're like, what in the world were you thinking? I mean, what was your mind space when you got there? What was that? Why did you do that? What made you think that was a good thing to do? And unfortunately, some people just, don't allow the prevailing spirit of the land that's been released and from MAGA or Trumpism to make you lose the business and the worth and the wealth that you've worked so hard for, because, you've been emboldened to allow something to come out of your mouth, because, like my grandmother Ruth A. Townsend says, you can't say mouth come back. That once you've said it, you said it. And here's the thing about words. You can't control how other people respond and or react to what you said. And so, sometimes I believe God allows forgiveness to go through. I believe that. And then other times I believe that he allows the repercussions of our words and our actions to go forward, so that it might teach us a lesson, because sometimes people need that lesson so they will learn what not to do for real. And now here's the thing, that God sees our heart. God's the only one that knows that if the after days of not saying anything, God only knows if that heart or if those words are, pure, and that they're being transparently open to receiving, rebuke, repent, and reconciliation, and perhaps even restoration from a community that was greatly hurt. And I think that's something that we need to consider. But yeah, it just came through that they apologized, and I get it, And what I will say is, don't apologize because we love to use that word forgiveness. Don't apologize because I just need to forgive it and move beyond it. Okay, I get it. Don't ask me. Don't say I'm sorry or whatever because you just want to move me on so you can get on with your life, because that's not sincere. But again, we're not here, neither here nor there, to adjudicate that. Time will tell, and we're just going to have to watch to see what the responses are from that particular community, from the west side of town. It's out there, and they're going to have to deal with that. And, I hear on Praise 93.3, 790 WTSK, we know that we're a religious station and all of that. I get that. But don't use my place and my faith in God to try to gaslight me into saying all is forgiven, because you say I'm sorry. Don't do that, because forgiveness can be immediate, but sometimes if you're doing it right, forgiveness is over time, because I've got to process exactly what you've done. And then I've got to process your sincerity. And then I've got to process what affliction, did it have on me? How bad did it wound me? I know God's going to heal it or God's going to fix it, in terms of all of that. But there's a real human element to what happened. A really human element to be disregarded for your being and your worth, to hear that word, to stand 10 toes down on that word, when you're only trying to celebrate, and simply because I'm black, simply because the color of my skin, you think I'm worth nothing and all of those. Yeah, that's not something that you just say, oh, I'm sorry. Bro, you can keep that. Sis, you can keep that because you really didn't mean that. That's facts of the matter. And so, I'm glad that my listener, let me know, say, hey, you got to say something about it. Glad about that. Good. Again, it is what it is. It is what it is. People are going to people. And, we don't hinge our lives waiting on apologies that we may never get from people who may never repent and never ask for the courteousness of our, forgiveness. But, also to the violator and the perpetrator, think before you do something. Even if you hate me, you're in a business. Even if you don't like me, you don't too much like me, you're in a business. And at the end of the day, what should matter most is the greenback. It should be able that I can pay for my bill, right? Who I am when I leave your establishment is one thing. You feel what I'm saying? Who I am when I leave your establishment is one thing, and you can take home what you feel about me. Yeah, okay, good. And but as a matter of business longevity, that your hatred of people and showing it forward is not a good business plan. It's not I don't think it's something you really want to do, and yet people do it, and they've been emboldened. I get it, especially if you're in the South. They've been emboldened by stuff like that. But you're gonna run up on the wrong person. I'm just trying to say, you are going to run up on the wrong person, and then you're gonna be asking for forgiveness, in a different kind of way. You're going to let your hate be seen at the wrong time and at the wrong place. And then we're going to just have to let the Lord have his way. That's the facts of the matter. Facts of the matter. Absolutely. Man, I just, again, as I said before, I wish we didn't have to deal with these things, but we do. We do. And, I just pray that, we learn to live beyond it and above it, because that's exactly what we need to do. To live beyond and above it. People still have that idea, and they've got to deal with it within themselves. It's a self-deficiency, like we've been talking about all day. But here's the next piece of the puzzle. That just makes our city look so bad on a national level, because, we've gone viral, not as a city apart from the Crimson Tide. So, Tuscaloosa has not really gone viral. But to go viral for racism to that degree, and to have it plastered all over the news and in other countries, man, I hope, whatever they were trying to do, I hope that they got it out of it. I doubt that they did, but I hope that they got something out of it. I mean, because I can't see how it increases your revenue at all. But the truth be told, I'm like, and that has been the whole thing about the South and about Alabama, that businesses of that level don't want to come to here because of the history of racism and racial animus and violence that is embedded in this state, and that's why we don't attract a lot of things. So we got to start thinking about what we're doing. Yeah, we have to really, really, really start thinking about the way that we take. Yeah. Thank you to my Culture Call listener. Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you. You didn't let that get past my radar. I appreciate it. Listen, this is L. Spencer Smith right here on the Culture Call, Praise 93.3, 790 WTSK. I need you to keep it right here. I see the runway. We're about to land this plane on another episode, but I need you to keep it here. Don't you dare miss it.
This is the world premiere.
Beautiful family, listen, we've come to the end of another episode of the Culture Call. Today we were talking about insecurity, and I pray our hope. Yeah, that's the word, hope. I expect that this has helped you in such a way that it has blessed me to present it to you. Listen, I need you to be right back here tomorrow morning from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. I'm telling you, it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful show. Listen, like my mama would say at the end of every phone call, I love you a bushel, I love you a peck, and I love you a hug around the neck. This is yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, right here on the Culture Call. Praise 93.3, 790 WTSK. Keep it locked right here throughout the day to hear the best and great inspirational gospel music and to hear the news and events that's going on in that area. Be kind, be sweet, be nice to everybody. Follow peace with all men. Do that. And be intentional about loving on someone today. Y'all do that for me, and I'm sure the Lord will be pleased, right? Y'all have a good one. Peace.